Something I hear from readers of my newsletter frequently, or people who direct message me, is that they want to know what to do if they're in a relationship with an emotionally unavailable person. They want more connection, they want more intimacy, emotional intimacy, but they feel like the other person is the obstacle. So let's talk about what's going on with that and what we can do about it. I'm Stacy Rocklein, and I'm on a mission to eradicate loneliness. And really, emotional intimacy is a great way to handle that desire for connection, a deeper connection. But what do you do if you are in a relationship with somebody else who feels emotionally unavailable? And that's the phrase that people use, but I think it's more emotional maturity and emotional intelligence. So I can go back to a version of myself that was really emotionally immature. When I got out of my childhood home and jumped into my early adult life, I had a very limited emotional repertoire. I was frustrated, and I didn't ever use the word angry. I would be frustrated, or I would be excited or happy. And that was kind of all that I had. I was very goal-oriented, success-oriented, achievement-oriented. I would work all day. I would work out. I would go to my classes for my master's degree at night. And then when I had free time, I would just want to let loose and party with my friends and go to concerts. And it was a very work hard, play hard mentality. For the most part, the way I saw other people who did have emotional intelligence, who did have feelings and wanted to talk about them, was that they were too sensitive. That's what I thought. And then what I thought about myself is that I was like Zen, right? I was emotionally mature because I didn't really have emotions that were difficult for other people. I was taking care of my own business until something big would happen. So here's an example. I was having a party at my house. My husband and I were having a party at our house. There was lots of people there. Nobody had kids, so it was a big, crazy party. And a friend from college had been visiting at the time and had asked me to, step aside and have a conversation with him. And we proceeded to have a conversation that made me feel very uncomfortable. And as soon as it was over, or I probably didn't even wait for it to be over, I excused myself and I went and I found my husband and I was like, I really need to talk to you. But he was playing music with his friends and he kind of blew me off. So then I tried to avoid that person, and ultimately I'm like, I can't do this on my own. I was being overwhelmed by emotions that I was not used to. And every once in a while this would happen to me. So then I found my husband again and I was like, look, I really need to talk to you. And again, he kind of ignored me. So listen to this. I went into our bedroom and I pulled out every drawer in our dresser and dumped the clothes out. That is some crazy, crazy behavior. And I went to my husband and I was like, hey, go look in our room. I have no idea what I thought was going to happen. Maybe I just really needed to shock him into paying attention to me. But what I know now is that I was really uncomfortable and kind of scared, and I didn't know what to do with those feelings. It's important that we, develop this emotional maturity so when we get put into a situation that was just a conversation that I didn't know how to handle, we can deal with what we're feeling and it doesn't turn into something that bananas. There were other instances, and every single time it happened, it was because I was being overwhelmed with stuff that I did not know how to deal with emotions that were coming up for me. Now, another way this can look is that, let's say you get really angry. Anger is a dominant emotion for you. Or maybe someone who it's a dominant emotion for you. That often, and like I said, I was really frustrated in my 20s. When I would get upset about stuff, I would say I was frustrated. I had no idea, and someone who has a lot of anger just doesn't know how to feel or name or understand the emotions that might be coming up for them. And that's totally okay. Before us, we have generations of people who also didn't know how to deal with their emotions. So we're figuring this out as we evolve as humans. So there's nothing right or wrong or good or bad about it. It's just that some of us don't start with that same maturity. Behind that is sometimes another thing. And what you can start to do is start to ask yourself, if you're really angry, what else could I be feeling? Because let's say you, like an example, you lose your job, or someone breaks up with you, or something happens that is not the way you expected it to turn out. If you're somebody who only knows how to deal with that stuff with anger, it feels best to just be like, I'm so pissed about this. I can't believe they did this. I was totally the right person for the job. Like, anger feels like you are expressing something, you're protecting yourself, like this is the emotion, but there's other stuff underneath there. And so you can start to ask yourself, what else am I feeling? You can use one of these, it's a feel wheel that has some of these more tender emotions, and figure out, what is it, right? That's where I started as an emotional toddler, is starting to ask myself, what is my feeling underneath anger? I would use anger as the cue that I probably had something else going on. So you can do that for yourself, and you will start to be able to see that often there is disappointment, there is sadness, there is fear, and you can't tell the other person in your life who is emotionally unavailable, like, I think you're not feeling your feelings. Here, take this. That's a very inadvisable way to approach someone, because it feels really judgy and superior and like you're condescending. So you can't tell them what to do, but you can reflect back to them some of the things they might be feeling. Like if someone is like, they have a disappointment at work and they come home and they're angry and you're dealing with that, you can start to say like, oh man, if I was in that situation, I would feel so bummed out. I would feel so disappointed. I mean, start to use language that they can begin to understand as other options for how they feel. So you can do some reflecting back, but at the end of the day, what you really need to do is work on yourself. So if this is you, make sure you grab this at the link so you can start to name your emotions and start to become accustomed to what you're feeling. I mean, I wish that I had known at that time, instead of doing something insane, that I was feeling uncomfortable and a little bit scared. I just had no idea. And something that I did do was try to partner with somebody over it. And so what you want to do is, I'm not speaking to somebody who has some sort of diagnosis that disrupts their emotional center, but for the average person who's just not learned how to feel their emotions, is start to name it, figure out, what are you feeling? And notice that it's in your body. Your body is feeling the feeling. If you can stay out of the narrative where you just wind yourself up and take that victim story and just turn it into this like whole big thing, but you just start to say like, okay, I can feel this feeling in my body, because you're here listening to this, so you've survived every single emotion that you have had, and I'm so glad. And then what you can do is partner with somebody. Tell somebody. It doesn't have to be, your partner. If you don't feel like they're going to listen to you, find somebody to tell how you're feeling. This is how we start to develop emotional intimacy, and everybody wants it. Everybody wants it. In fact, I have this theory, totally not based on science at all, that sometimes you meet somebody who's emotionally unavailable, but they are really sexually active. They're very interested in making that kind of connection because they crave intimacy. They crave intimacy and they haven't learned how to do it. And so that's their way to get really close to people. And so I'm just mentioning that because maybe that is giving you an indicator that you are and everybody should pursue sexual intimacy that wants it. But we can also pursue emotional intimacy because that's important too. So if you're noticing that, I wonder if I'm replacing this one with possibly this one, you can have both and develop some emotional intimacy. So grab a feel wheel if you think this will help you. Emotional intelligence is something that you can achieve. You can go get it. You can practice it. It's so much better to be able to have intimate relationships where you can talk about your feelings. It's so much less drama, right? If I had never figured that out or learned how to do that, what a mess I would have just continued to make in my relationships because I didn't know how to deal with it. So really important for you to develop that. And if you know somebody who is emotionally unavailable, and especially someone you might be close to, and you want to bring this up, you might start just with reflecting some other possibilities without making them feel like you're judging them. Or if they're more open-minded, you could send them this video and see what they think about it. Just ask them what their thoughts are. It's a protective mechanism for us to not let people in and not go in and feel our feelings. And we think it's like, I don't want to do that. That sounds horrible. But actually, it's the gateway to intimacy is to understand your feelings. So grab this if you need it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.